Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Triple Threat Comics YouTube channel. I'm your host, Dave Miller. Tonight, I am here with Director Carlos Baena, who many of you know from the show that he directed, Star Trek Unification. Carlos, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ian. Thank you, everyone.
Before we get into our topic tonight, I usually ask this with any new guests on the show, just to tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got started in the business.
Yeah. So I'm originally from Spain, and I moved to the United States 94. I was 18. And I moved because I knew I loved film, but there wasn't such a thing as, going to school for film in Spain. I was actually studying law at the time.
Wow.
And in talking to my, I think it was my father, was like, he knew that I wanted to travel. He knew that I wanted to learn English. So I moved, thanks to my parents, actually. I moved to the United States to study English and study art. And in that process, this was 93, 94. In that process, I started meeting people that were working either at ILM or at Pixar. They were working on the Toy Story film, which came out in 1995. And once I started learning about that job, which I had no idea that was a job, that you could actually get paid for working on movies, I started digging in further. And I remember attending a talk by Pete Docter in San Francisco, and he was just kind of talking about what were the things that they would do to study people as they were preparing to work on Toy Story. And that was such a fun talk because basically they were analyzing people, then they were acting things out, and you could just tell that they were having fun for a living. I remember thinking, I want to do that. I want to have fun for a living. Little did I know that Hollywood is not always that fun. But yeah, I think, so I started in animation, and it's been the majority of my career. I think on the side, sometimes I will work on live action projects. I've done a few live action shorts. I've done the Star Trek 765, 874. But the majority of my career has been in animation. I worked on commercials for a few years in the late 90s, and then I went on to work at ILM, Industrial Light and Magic, to work on Jurassic Park 3 was the first film I work on. And then I worked on episode 2 on Star Wars. And there I went on to Pixar in 2002. I was there for about 11 years. And then I left Pixar to continue learning more about developing and kind of like finding my voice, I guess. Once you work on these studios, you kind of like work for these different directors, and it wasn't since college that I was missing working on my own materials. So that's kind of like one of the main reasons I left Pixar. And now I'm currently working at Skydance. We're developing a project over there, and I've been lucky to get to work with the folks at Toy on these Star Trek pieces.
Yeah, Yeah, because there's definitely four different shorts, and this one obviously was the biggest one.
Right.
Yeah. So how did this one be come? How did this come about?
It was definitely a journey for the last 3 years. So January 2022, I was contacted. I spoke to a friend of mine in Spain, JJ, um, and he told me like, "Hey, I'm working with some people over here, and they're looking for somebody to direct an actor on a set." That's what it was. It just really. Um, He was basically helping on a set to direct an actress, Mahe. And before doing so, I met Jules Pak, the owner, the CEO of Otoy.
Mhm.
And, and we started talking, and then I joined them on a set. And we just kind of like hit it off. I mean, one of the things that I realized with Jules is uh, he's got not only the knowledge of Star Trek, which I don't have, but also a lot of attention to detail, which I always appreciate, and really loves to push for something to be better, and that's something that I've always appreciated. So we worked on the first piece together. It was great because after that day on the set, it was just like, do you want to finish it? And then I did the editing. Basically, it was a small one-man band type of uh, uh, early projects. The first couple of 765, 874, it was just a very small group of people. And then once we did Regeneration, which was the third one, at that point we started bringing more people. We started bringing, story artists, which I was missing on the first two storyboarders, um, and it started kind of like taking more of a life of its own. And I think that was all those three pieces were kind of preparing us to eventually do Unification, which was the biggest beast of them all, with a lot of moving pieces, a lot of players. So,
Yeah, it was pretty ambitious to do this type of short, especially with considering the characters that are involved. And for folks, if you don't know what I'm talking about, and you really should, and there's a link below where you can watch the short. It involves William Shatner's James T. Kirk, after he dies in Star Trek Generations, and he goes through a portal which brings him into the Kelvin timeline where he encounters Spock for one last time, as that older Spock is going to other places or passing on. But yeah, you had a character, and you had three different versions of the character, from three different timelines. And Sam Witwer does a fantastic job in embodying Shatner's Kirk, especially through his three different periods.
yeah, I mean, I talked about it like we did a panel not too long ago, and this is the kind of film where so much is needed from the part of the acting and the performance, where you know you are combining good performances with actors that not only are familiar with the world of Star Trek, but also they have studied these characters that they are playing, Kirk and Spock, to the T, to the most nuanced micro expression, the body doing a particular shift. These are all things that Sam and Lawrence, they studied these characters. And I do think it's the kind of film that if the performance like the performance was top notch. The technology from Otoy, John Lee, Mike Aston, Jules, like was really top notch. I think the music, Michael Giacchino was incredible. And if all those things are not working together, I don't think the film would have had the reaction that it had. You know, on my end, I was always trying to make the film have that component of a human story. I wanted to do a human story first and a Star Trek piece second, so that folks that grew up with Star Trek appreciate it, but also people that didn't grow up on Star Trek, like myself, still appreciate it. That is a reunion between two best friends saying goodbye. And that was that was an important part. But yeah, Sam, Lawrence, Robin, Mark, Gordon, all the cast, they really did a phenomenal job. It's hard when you are on the set and you are looking at these performances, because in my head, while we were on the set, I was already editing, trying to think like how certain things were gonna cut, and while I was appreciating the performance, it wasn't until I started putting all the footage together and looking at all the takes that it started hitting me, the quality and the caliber of the acting that I was getting, But on the set, a lot of multiple spinning plates.
Well, of course, because that's just the making of it. It doesn't really come together until you actually get into the editing room, where you can have, the performances really come to life and take shape, and the story takes shape. So yeah, there's so many components that worked completely. Robin returning as Savick was a complete shock to me, and I'm sure as other people, because that would be the first time that she actually plays Savick since the fourth Star Trek movie, which is back in '86. So this was quite a shock, and it was also a welcoming shock.
Yeah. Sorry, you were gonna.
No. No, I was waiting for you to actually respond, but you just responded. So.
Robin was the biggest surprise, one of the biggest surprises, because everybody on the set knew who Robin was and her legacy as the character of Savick. I didn't know as much until Jules, the writer, also of the piece, started telling me how big of a deal it was to bring Savick back because of the backstory. But it was so interesting how, for me, I met Robin first, and then I learned about the character of Savick after. Most of the people knew about Savick first, and then they learned about the actor or actress afterwards. And with Robin, it was just such a welcoming, incredible, gentle character, actress, and a person. Just a person that I just really love to get to know. And then after getting to know her, and then I start, we press record and we start to get these takes that generally it was making it very hard to pick the right one, because there were so many great takes. There were so many great acting moments between Sam and Robin, between Sam and Lawrence, Robin and Mark, the actor that played Savick's son. There was just a lot of great stuff. I mean, I spent a lot of time on the edit, just having a timeline with good takes. Usually, I color code my timelines on the editing software, of green for the ones that I like, orange for the ones that are, that I'm like half and half, and red for the ones that are like, no, that take won't work. and there was a lot of green in the a lot of green on my timeline. I would just leave the computer and I'd come back and I'm like, how do I, you know? But it's a good problem to have. It really is a good problem to have. It's just, yeah, I mean, I think it's that pressure that we were talking earlier about a project and a film that if I had thought, or if I, about all the pressure and all the different ways that it could have gone wrong, most likely I would have not even gotten involved, would have been terrified.
Yeah. Well, I can imagine, yeah, they would definitely be terrifying. Yeah, let's backtrack for a second here, especially going back to the performances. Because as you said, Sam and Lawrence had to really study Shatner and Nimoy's performances, in various, versions of Star Trek. But what's crazy was Otoy's technology, which was the prosthetic makeup. Obviously, this was all done in camera.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Were you initially shocked, when you first saw it working in camera?
So I was somewhat prepared from the previous piece, Regeneration.
Mm-hmm.
And I had seen, so the second piece, Memory Wall, Jules Urbach and I co-directed it, and I got a chance to kind of like see the first hints of this technology. This was summer of 2022. And I remember not quite making sense for me. And then it wasn't until Regeneration, we had 3 shots of face replacement with Lawrence as acting as a Spock. And on that one, I started seeing, having the 2 monitors, and in one of them I was seeing Lawrence, and in the other one I would see Spock. And that's kind of like what started preparing me, I think, for Unification. We have 30 plus shots, face replacement shots on Unification. And I don't think I would have been fully prepared if I hadn't worked on the previous pieces. It would have been too overwhelming, most likely. The technology is, it allows me to basically be focused on the character, not the actor.
Yeah.
And that's what was great. Like, usually face replacement happens later in post-production, but you don't know what you're gonna get. So to be able to get it real time on the day off, and one of the people on the set, David, handed me kind of like this iPad that split the screen. So now I will be able to walk around the set, and I'm always looking at either Kirk's face or Spock's face. And that allowed me to really concentrate on what's being said, not how is this going to look a few months from now when it's, in post-production after the VFX of the face replacement. So the real-time aspect of it was crucial. I think it's crucial for something like this.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially just seeing, where the process is going. Saying, okay, this is starting to look, like them. This is definitely working. All right, but let me see another angle of that, or so see if I get another reaction on that. It really does help you with your directing.
Say that again?
It really helps you with directing, obviously.
Oh, yeah. And one more thing I was going to say is, it allowed me to notice and realize the degree of subtlety that we could go into. Because sometimes with technology, you just don't know if you have to push too much or if you have to like pull it back, you know. And by seeing it on real time, I was realizing, wow, like, you know, the most subtle micro expressions are being cut, are being, you know, catched by the camera. And that was, I mean, not only was fascinating and educational, but also it allowed us to push the film more towards what I wanted, which was um, a film where you are basically telling a story without words, you know.
Yeah.
And again, so much credit goes to the cast because they were able to kind of like go into this plane where they spoke mountains by doing very little with their faces, you know, and that really came off so nicely. I mean, I had so many conversations with Sam about that, um, and you know, it worked out so great, you know, and I'm just so happy and I'm so honored to have had those actors in the film.
Yeah, absolutely. They did a tremendous job. It was obviously the short's been very well received. I've seen it multiple times now. Because I keep looking for Easter eggs and all that, and also just to watch the performances and the way the camera moves. With these great character moments, and I was like, wow, that's it right there. That's it.
I mean, camera department. I mean, Leonidas Jaramillo and the DP and Jonathan Roybal, my previous, the previous artist I got to work with, Leo's, the whole team, Cameron Reed. I mean, they were not only they were very patient with the process, but also they really embrace kind of like really uh, being very delicate with the camera. I always feel like the camera should almost be like an extension of the storytelling. So if the tone is slow, you know, I think the camera moves, they have to reflect that, you know. And
Yeah.
they were so great, you know. I mean, they were so great on the set. I mean, Leo has had this great relationship with his team over the years, so they have a lot of shortcuts. They know each other. They know that that language, and they know how to communicate with one another. So that if I'm asking Leo, "Hey, I'm looking for A, B, and C," he knows how to quickly talk to his team and get it done. And on top of it, because I spent a long time with the storyboarding and the previs, I wanted certain cameras to really hit in a particular spot, to have a very specific speed. And they were very patient with me. They were, uh, I have to really, I love working with them because, you know, it's, you know, they definitely got me what I was looking for. So,
Isn't that the best feeling to get exactly what you want in terms of shots?
oh yeah, I mean, and sometimes you are hoping for this and then you get that. And there were
Yeah.
several moments in the short where that happened too. Um, yeah, there was several moments where that definitely happened. There was one shot, for example, which is Kirk walking into the room, and it was a crane boom down shot, you know, where we can see Kirk in the foreground and Spock's bed in the background, and that took many takes. But man, when you get it, it's amazing. It's the best. You know.
Yeah, that was a beautiful shot. I was like, wow. And over the crane shot, I was like, wow, that's spectacular. Yeah. I'm actually going to show them a couple of behind the scenes photos, just to show them what
Sure.
we were talking about. So just give me a second. Yeah, you folks are going to love these. Okay. So this was obviously one of the behind the scenes. You can see Sam is obviously in the hair and costume. Matching Shatner's appearance in Generations. But obviously, you can see, and also Lawrence as Spock. Once again, matching up. But yeah, isn't that great, folks? It's amazing the attention to detail that comes into these things, recreating certain things from different periods, and also the set design.
Set design, you know, again, I just have to call different people out because we were lucky to have Dave Glass as our
Mm-hmm.
production designer. He has a long history with Star Trek. He educated me about Star Trek as well. He was one of the different people that educated me about the world of Star Trek. How do who is who? What. And in addition, JJ Palomo in Spain, he helped on the early pre-production, also helping with certain set design aspects of both the tunnel and the final room, the Spock's room. And then costume was kind of like a combination of Mildred, our costume designer, and Jules, because Jules knows this world. I cannot be making calls on costumes on a world that I'm not familiar. So for me, that was
Mm-hmm.
no brainer. It's like, the areas that I did uh, give feedback was, we had crowds, for example, and on the garden, and there was different colors, and on my end, just from a compositional and color palette point of view, I just didn't want certain colors to really pop out or take you out of the storytelling and things like that. But I mean, so much of that was, Jules and Mildred, and doing incredible costumes. So,
Yeah, I do have to ask, where was the exterior shot?
that was in Pasadena, a place called Huntington Gardens.
Wow.
And yeah, we did a location scout, I think a couple of times that I went with Leo, Mike Ashton, one of our producers, and I think Jules was in one of those as well. And it's a spectacular garden, not easy to film. Definitely not an easy place to film. But there was just that one fountain area really helped for the mood and the tone of this one particular scene. We talked a lot about this scene kind of like having almost the feeling of a big fish type of ending of Big Fish, where you just have um, people from somebody's life waiting for somebody, and the fountain was incredible for that. So,
Yeah, like you said, it's probably impossible to shoot there, but when you did, it was just wow. It's very beautiful. Uh, but yeah, I can't say enough good things about this short, folks. I really can't say enough good things about this short. It was again very well received, very well directed, very well acted. You know, so as a Star Trek fan, I have to thank you, sir. For helping this come to life.
yeah, I mean, it's definitely a group effort. Um, I mean, every film is a group effort, honestly.
Yeah.
Uh, you can have the most incredible uh, part of, the film, but then if the other pieces are not working with that one part, then nothing's going to work. So, uh, I feel like, like I said, like the story, the acting, the technology, the VFX, the production people, or the producers really help. It was definitely a group effort. So,
Yeah, and it was a great group effort. I do have one or two last two shots to show people, which I'll get to. Hold on. This is sort of more behind the scenes, folks, especially what Carlos and other people, filmmakers, were actually seeing in the camera. Now, this is not William Shatner. This is Sam Witherden. I was completely shocked, like I said, and this was all in camera.
yeah. And it was great too. One of the things that, so Sam has had all this experience for the previous year or two working with Clay Sparks, and Mike Ashton and John Lee. These are the people in charge of all the face replacement magic. And what was great was you would see some, like we have, not only I'm looking at monitors, but then also Sam was looking at a monitor that was nearby the camera. And that allowed him to just kind of like get certain angles correct, what he knows about William Shatner's and his physicality, his body language, he was able to see through the camera and kind of like, it was fantastic. It was really good.
Yeah.
This is Lawrence.
Yeah. Yeah, what was great about Lawrence's performance is, he's mystified that Kirk is even there. And then he does, obviously, the Spock eyebrow, and it's like, wow, that's really on spot.
Yeah, it was really good. Also, sometimes the technology allow me to kind of like address certain, for example, like eye lines. Sometimes with the technology, the eye line on the set, sometimes like once you put the real-time face of the character, sometimes it will look like they were looking maybe a little bit more to the left or to the right. And then what was great about the technology is that it allowed me to just kind of get more precise, I mean, like, instead of like just a little bit, it's getting away from the axis. Like I just wanted to get a little closer to the camera, and all those things, they were able to help me with that, Again, Mike Ashton, I mean, the patience with a lot of notes. We had a lot of notes throughout the process, and they were great. They addressed every single one of them. I'm so also Mark, our VFX supervisor, was fantastic for that too.
Yeah. Yeah, folks. So if you haven't seen the short yet, like I said, the link to the short is actually down below on YouTube, or you go to ortoy.com, type in Roddenberry Archive, and there it is, along with some other great features, interviews. So yeah. So Carlos, early in the show, you were talking about a new project that you were, in the process of doing.
Yeah. I work for Skydance, and we've been working on developing a feature over there. I cannot talk.
Yeah, of course.
But it's a fantastic group of people. We are in an industry where having a job is a luxury.
Yeah.
On top of it, getting to work with people that just make the day-to-day just a lot of fun. A lot of fun. And this is a very, very special project. as well. So it's animated, so it's I don't get to be on a set, but I get to be with amazing people. At the end of the day, that's that's better than anything, really. So,
Yeah, I like that, especially when you also take bring what you've done with live action and bring it into animation. That really helps a lot to think about it in a different way than you would normally think about it if you're just an animator.
oh yeah, yeah. Actually, it actually helped going from animation to doing the Star Trek pieces because it allowed me to pre-visualize and almost watch the film multiple times before we press record on the camera. So what happened with Unification is I worked with Ahmed Nasri, a storyboard artist in France, and he did like maybe one or two passes of the whole film before I started working with Jonathan Roybal with the previous. And what they do is they just give me either storyboards. Sometimes those storyboards are animated with layers for specific camera angles that I had in mind. And once we go into previous, the characters don't have any faces. I mean, they have faces, but they don't have expressions. But at least it allows me to start seeing the flow of the film. And also it starts to help me uh, figure out, do we have a film here? Like, is there a story? Is it too long? Is it too short? Is it too, do we need, uh, another section here? Do we need to expand on that? And it's great to get all those answers before you go to a set. Because the moment that I go into a set, I don't want to be thinking about the duration of shots. I don't want to be thinking much about compositions and staging. I just want to be with the actors. So if
Yeah,
I do my job properly, all that work prior to the shoots, then I can pass that to Leo, the DP, and then he knows what I'm looking for. And then I can just be thinking about the performance. And, once you are on the set, there is a lot of multiple uh, spinning plates, I keep saying. And some of those days, I remember coming back from a particular shoot day, and it felt like I had been working out the entire day for 20 hours in a row. Like, your brain is just so drained, you know. But the feeling was amazing in the sense that I knew we were getting amazing stuff. I knew the team was killing it in every department, And I remember, like, on the later days that we had shoots, if maybe a section wasn't going like I was hoping, I would remember that there was a lot of great stuff that we had done previously, and that would actually almost like pick me up to continue doing, the best that I could be doing. So, yeah, it was a uh, once in a lifetime experience, this Unification show.
absolutely. Carlos, I can't thank you enough for coming on here to talk about the short and also talk about your other works. I'm very excited about your other project. I know you can't talk about it, but I'm very excited about it.
Thank you so much.
Of course. Before we do end tonight, folks, as always, I like to plug in my own work. As you know, I am a comic book artist and a writer, and here is my comic, Code Imp Hunter. It's a sci-fi spy thriller. So if you're fans of James Bond, Star Trek, Star Wars, and even Guardians of the Galaxy, this comic might be up your alley. Currently working on issue 4 right now, so issues 1 through 3 is available at indieplanet.com. We're also on TripleThreatComics.com. The site is being worked on. I'm working on it myself. So yeah, this is my comic. And this is issue 2. And this is issue 3. So I'm very excited about where the series is going to go, especially with the people behind, behind the scenes of making the comic. So a lot to be excited about. And hopefully issue 4 is going to come this summer. Well, not hopefully. It's definitely going to come this summer. And I also have a storefront on tpublic.com. So if you just go down to the link below, you can find my storefront where you can find all these great designs that I just came up with. As you can see, most of the characters in here are from, my character Little Ian, most of the designs. Some of them are Codename Hunter designs, but here is the most recent one. Perfect gift for Mother's Day. So if you're looking for that right Mother's Day gift, this could be the one for you. Now, you don't just get t-shirts in this, you get wall art, phone case covers, coffee mugs, bowl caps, hoodies, long sleeve shirts, and so on. So just type in TeePublic, type in Lillian merch, and you can find my storefront there. Carlos, again, thank you again for coming on the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Of course. And I think that's going to be it for us tonight, folks. I'm Ian Miller, and this has been Triple Threat Comics YouTube channel. Have a good night.